Welcome to Life at the Deep End. We are your hosts, Jordan Bone
and Samantha Bromfield. After facing challenges of our own, we wanted our voices to be heard, to authentically share not only our stories and experiences, but life lessons we are learning along the way.
to show you that despite any struggle you may face, life can be fulfilling and amazing, because ultimately, you are the creator of your reality.
You may often feel alone, but we are here to confirm that you are not.
So let's dive into the deep end.
Hi guys, and welcome back to Life at the Deep End. Today Sam and I are joined by a special guest, Katie Calder. Katie is a human design guide and spiritual mentor. Not only is she a great spiritual teacher, she is a beautiful soul sharing her light with the world. We are so excited to have her here today. We're going to have an insightful conversation and I'm so excited. So hi Katie.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me, Sam and Jordan.
No, thank you for being here. We're just so excited. This is such an interesting topic. I mean, you are an interesting topic, but human design, for one, is an interesting topic. I was just wondering, though, firstly, if you want to introduce yourself a little further, because I kind of was a brief intro there, but if you want to tell the listeners a bit more about you.
Totally. So I'm Katie Calder. I'm currently in Washington, D.C., but I'm a bit nomadic right now and kind of traveling to where I'm guided, but I am a human design and intuitive guide. And so basically what I use is a number of systems, one of them being human design, to help connect everyone to their most expansive and embodied version of themselves. And I have been on kind of a spiritual self-understanding journey, I would say, for most of my life, but really the past 4 years. And dive deep into all these different systems, astrology, tarot, the Myers-Briggs system, numerology, all these systems to better get to understand myself. And then I found human design about 3.5 years ago, and nothing had ever so nailed me and also given me so much permission to just live life as me. And so now I use this work to hope to do the same with other people and just really showing and sharing that there's no one way fits all, right? There's no one path to being having a fulfilling and rich life. And so the more and more I can share that your way isn't wrong, even if it's totally different than this person's, the more and more I feel like I'm kind of living my path. And it's a journey for me every day, right? So I teach, I'd say, as a spiritual mentor, kind of in a little bit of a different way, as I'm sure both of you do, but it doesn't make me have any more information than anyone, right? Like I'm just as much on my path, continuing to step in deeper every day. But yeah, it's a little tiny background of me.
I love that. What kind of brought you into a spiritual awakening as such?
So around 4 years ago, it was like I felt like I had done everything right. I had done well in school. I had tons of friends. I got the job, and I found myself in a place where I was totally numb to life, totally disconnected. It was interesting because I was like, but I've done the things that should make me feel happy and fulfilled and successful, and yet I never had felt more disconnected to myself. So how it started, actually, I randomly got this ping to sign up for a yoga teacher training. And it was the first thing that I had really chosen for myself. And I wasn't even practicing yoga or anything at the time. I'd never stepped foot in this studio. And I kind of immersed myself into that world. And then I also, from there, it kind of sparked all of these realizations and understandings of just how I didn't really know who I was. I didn't really know who I was. I didn't really know what I wanted. And so I dove deep into unpicking what I say a lot. And I know Jordan, because we've had a session, like deconditioning process of seeing all of the stories that I had taken on from society, from parents, from friends, from all of those, and then really dove into what's mine and what's not. And it's so funny because we talk about this journey, whether it's a spiritual journey, a self-development, self-understanding journey. And I think that something I say all the time is, on the outside, I feel like it's often projected that it just looks like an upward climb, like you're just getting more and more enlightened and more aware, where really someone who's a light worker or a teacher, whatever, it's because you can hold the depths and hold in all directions. So it's not just that you expand in one way, you're expanding into the lows as well. You're traversing places that you might have previously numbed out of your life or disconnected, right? So a lot of that journey was like looking at things that I don't think I would have looked at before, right? And by being able to hold and befriend and reparent myself and all the things, that's where your capacity like expands. So.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you have to get uncomfortable sometimes. A lot of the time people want to just do all the comfortable, pretty, like, oh, this is nice, just do a nice meditation, which is great. It changed my life. But you need to sometimes, you have to go through those dark, like ugly parts, because actually they're just the bits that we really need to look at a lot of the time in order to kind of shift.
I know for both of you, that's been so much of your path. And I'm just, you both are walking testaments to being able to choose yourself again and again and again, regardless of situations, right? Because for everyone, it's different for everyone, but everyone has something that they deal with or they go through or that. And I think a lot of my work is validating that in people, because it doesn't matter what it is for you. If you don't actually look at it, it's going to keep knocking on your door.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Just got to answer that door and, you know, let it in.
Yeah,
I thought it'd be really cool to go through the different types as well that there are. But I had a question before we dived into it, because I looked at mine quite a while ago now, but then I went to look at my partner's today and I hit a stumble, and he was like, what do I do if I don't know my exact time of birth? I was like, oh, I don't know. And I did think there might be quite a few people listening that know all the other bits, but don't know the exact time they were born. And I tried to have a little look online, but I didn't know whether, does that make a massive difference, or is there a way around that?
Yeah, so there's a couple things. I wish I had the website, but there's actually a website that you can like put in a bunch of information and it kind of predict the time for you based on some key factors. And the birth time, it does matter a lot. It matters more in human design than astrology, let's say, just because it kind of shifts all these minor aspects. But oftentimes it won't. It just depends. Like things change depending on the astrology, and they change more because of how in depth the system is. But usually, if you know around the range, what I always say is for someone to pull up multiple times during the day and to see what changes. So sometimes, like some of the more deep elements, there'll be slight variations, and so I will just not look at that. But a lot of the time the type will stay the same, most of your gates will stay the same. So my number one thing is just try pulling up like a number of different times in a certain range.
That's what I did for him. I tried like 6 a.m, 12 p.m, like different ones, and like you said, his type didn't change, but more like his definition and stuff like that changed a couple of times. But yeah, the type stayed the same. So because we thought before we go into like each one, if people listening paused it or held off going and found out what they were first, because then I think it would make for a really interesting listen if they kind of have a bit of an idea of what type they are.
I love that idea. Absolutely. So my favorite website to do that is geneticmatrix.com, and you can create a free account, and what you'll need is your name, your birth date, your birth type, and your birth time, and your birth location. And when you put that all in, you should get this super complex chart with all of these squares and triangles and words and numbers, and it looks crazy, really in depth. You do not need to understand what any of it means. That's why you come to someone like me.
Yes.
But it basically, what it is human design shows the blueprint of your soul, right? And it combines all of these ancient systems, Eastern and Western astrology, the Kabbalah, the chakra system, the I Ching, quantum physics, biomechanics, basically all of these tried and true systems into this one modern system that shows this template of how you can best live your life in flow. And most of the time, I mentioned earlier that it should just be kind of an exhale and permission to really step into what you've already known and always known. It should, anytime if you ever read something that's restrictive or that makes you feel like you are put in a box, ditch that information. It should only feel expansive and be something. We have free will. This is kind of a guide of how to best use your energy. And what you just mentioned, Sam, are these energy types. So if you know nothing else about human design, you know your energy type. And there are 5 energy types: manifestors, generators, manifesting generators, projectors, and reflectors. And the energy types don't necessarily tell you about your character or like how you are as a person. That's much more your profile. I think, Jordan, you're 6'2", right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So I mentioned Jordan's a projector and I'm a manifesting generator, but you're actually more like people who are the same profile as you. So 6'2" is usually more commonalities with people who are other 6'2s. So it really, though, your energy type talks about your aura and it gives you a strategy of how to best use your aura as well. So we'll dive into the types. Do you have any questions before?
Well, should we be a bit selfish, Jordan? What should we go through our types first?
Yeah, definitely.
Do you want to go first, Jordan? What were you?
You go first, Sam.
I don't really know that much, but so I'm a manifesting generator.
You're a manifesting generator.
Yeah, and I've just looked. It said my profile was 1-4.
Okay.
I don't really know. Like, I'm really new to this, but we'll talk about this a bit later on when we say where people can find you. But I feel like lately I live on your Instagram, Katie.
Oh, that makes
I find, like, when you said you get the birth chart and it can look a little bit complicated, and I think you do so well at breaking it down and it being really understanding. So I feel like literally every day I'm like, oh, is there a new post? Is there something else about me?
I do that.
Oh, my heart. That makes me so happy. That's like exactly what I want, because not everyone can get a reading, or people read about human design and then they feel bad about themselves. And all I want to do is be like kind of a safe space for you to feel good about yourself.
Yeah, and explain.
Realize that it's only expansive. So thank you for saying that.
But yes, I'm a manifesting generator.
Manifesting generator. Okay, let's start with there. It's interesting because I usually do manifestors and generators before manifesting generators, because they're a little bit of a combo. But let's just start with manifesting generators, which I am as well.
Okay.
So manifesting generators are kind of the new age being. They're almost a hybrid. The manifesting generators are the superheroes. They're the people who are multi-talented, multi-passionate, who are backed with what I'll talk about later, generators' drive and a manifestor's ability to accomplish. And manifesting generators have the potential to have the most energy of all the types. But that doesn't mean that if you're a manifesting generator, you have lots of energy, which we'll talk about a little bit. But as a manifesting generator, you're not here to follow a linear path. You're here to taste all of the things that light you up and leave them when they're no longer lighting you up. And as manifesting generators, it's really, really important to know that you are not non-committal. You are not a flake. You are not a little all over the place. You actually might be a little all over the place, but that's exactly how you're supposed to be. And the more you can, like, I know there's a lot of conditioning, is what I'll call it again, from society of, you need to stick on one path or pick this thing. And that's never how your life is going to look, because you're the one who carves new pathways. You're a visionary. You're a starter, and you really show the world that the limit to what you can do is not a thing, right? I wrote the other day, the limit does not exist for manifesting generators. And so with any manifesting generator, the key is being immersed in all the things you love and allowing your energy to kind of be a little bit all over the place. Maybe today you're interested in this, maybe tomorrow you're interested in that. And it might not make sense to anyone else, but it does make sense to you. There's a method to your madness, right? And the way you operate, really, this person's like, well, why don't you just stick with this? It's not for you. And so when we think about the types, right, there's a strategy on how to best use your energy and flow. And with manifesting generators, you have this aura that's constantly like reaching out for things to respond to. All day, every day, you have things to respond to. Maybe it's a text that you get, or something that says, start this business, or a friend that says, want to get coffee. Like, all day, every day, you have things to respond to. How do you respond best for you? Well, the first part of the manifesting generator is to respond, which is the whole generator strategy, which we'll talk about later. but that's not where it ends. When you have something to respond to, that's where you get either pulled towards or away from the thing. And then you don't end there. Then it's about envisioning what it's like to do that. So let's say that it's starting a new business venture, and you have this idea or this thing comes in and you're like, ooh, I'm feeling drawn towards that. That's interesting. That's not where you commit. Now I want you to envision, what is it like to actually do that? Like, what does it require? What are the steps? And you almost kind of tap into the motion. And then there's this moment of truth. And this is what kind of distinguishes manifesting generators from generators and from manifestors, in that moment of truth, you either have the go ahead to like go full force and you get this massive momentum to initiate and then you inform other people, or it's like, nope, leaving that for later. And so I'll talk about how this looks for me. I have all of these ideas, all of these things I want to do all the time, but I know that I might start something and then come back to it later and then start it again. Like if you follow me on my Human Design Lady account, I have periods where it's like massive creation, massive stuff coming through. And then I don't post for a month. I'm doing other things and I come back. And that's kind of how it is, because for a manifesting generator, when the energy is there, it's like really there. And when it's not, you can't force it, because then the really small things are going to be the really hard things. I had a session the other day with a manifesting generator, and they were telling me how in an old career of theirs, the hardest thing for them was putting the staples in the stapler. It would be on their mind for weeks of this little task that's supposedly easy, but that's kind of how a manifesting generator is. Those little things. For me, it's answering emails. Oof. The emails, I cannot, it's like a one-line email. It shouldn't be hard, but for me, it's really, really, really hard. So that's kind of how it is. And I would say if you're an MG and you have no energy at all, what are all of those little things that you're shooting yourself about needing to do, and where can you allow more freedom and more play in your field so that you can kind of do all the things and then come back to them when it's right. I'll give one final example for MGs. It's so classic manifesting generator, in just a personal example. 2 years ago was like, I need to start a podcast. I kept tapping in, right? I'm envisioning, I know that's respond. Okay, we're doing it. And people are saying I should. And I'm also just like, I really want to. I didn't have the energy. To do it. Then all of a sudden, like a year and a half in, this was a couple months ago, I was like, today's the day. Learn everything about how to do a podcast, how to set it up, do my intro. It's been 3 months. I put out the intro and I have not started the podcast. And the thing is not blaming myself for being non-committal, but knowing that when I have the energy, it's go time. And so a lot of this, it's like carving the new pathways for you and knowing that you always have the potential to change your mind. And it's not a bad thing when you can lean in and show others that, this doesn't mean you don't care. This doesn't mean you're not committal, but really it's just the way your energy best operates. You can find so much flow in the world.
That's really good to say that as well, for people to hear that, because, a lot of the time we always worry that, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. But when you start to learn how you are as a person, like truly your blueprint, then you can take away that guilt that people carry a lot of the time, because they think, I'm not doing enough, that I'm seeing on Instagram, for example. And when you realize, okay, this is just how I work and that's okay, that's when you can flow with it more.
Yeah, and that's so true, because I read a bit about that the other day and I thought, that is so me. Like it really did sound like me. And I've always just thought that perhaps I was a bit flaky, and that I just and I changed my mind too much. And like you said, but trying to force something when you're not in the right frame of mind for it, you're not feeling it, is when I hate it is most. Like, for example, I make like videos for the MS Trust, and when it's sort of done, when I'm feeling it and it's on my terms, it's like fine. And then for the last 3 weeks, I've been trying to do this one video for them, and I've just not been in the right frame of mind. I've just not wanted to do it. And I was like, I can't, it just doesn't seem sincere, because I just don't want to. And also, like with my blog, Jordan, I was saying to you, aren't I? Like I go through phases where I'm like, every week at a set time, I'm writing, I'm doing blog posts, I'm uploading it. And then I'm like, 6 months has been by. And I just think, oh, is that me being flaky? But it's so interesting to learn that actually that's okay. Like, if that's the way I work, and if I do, because it tends to be creatively, I think I chop and change my mind a lot. And I tend to think, oh, I really want to give that a go. Oh, I really want to do that. Oh, I really want to do that. And yeah, it's just nice to know that it's not a bad quality, if that makes sense. It's just the way I work.
It's not. And the thing with manifesting generators is we already shame ourselves enough for that. We have enough of the telling ourselves that this is bad and that we can't. No, it's really not. The more and more you can be like, oh, this is just telling me that my energy should be directed somewhere else. And then, when you come back to it and when you have the energy, it's like it just flows and it just comes, and it's massive creation. So the more and more you can kind of lean in and just notice that your energy is really guiding you, and have less. I think I said the other day, the one of the worst things to ask a manifesting generator is, what's your 5-year plan?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
I don't know my 5-year plan. I don't even know my 5-day plan. Yeah.
I think as well, it's really inspiring to know that. I think by knowing that, you'll feel more inspired to do certain things because you won't put as much pressure on yourself. I think you'll, instead of just that worry about certain things, by thinking, am I being flaky? Oh, who am I? And then you're like, oh, actually, it's cool.
Something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. Love hearing about these.
What are you then, Jordan?
I am an emotional projector.
You're a projector. Yes. So projectors are like the guides of the tribe. Projectors have this way. Sometimes we describe them as the birds on the trees, where it's like you're sitting above the society, seeing all of how everything operates, and you see people and systems and just ways. Every projector has their unique way that they see the world, or they see things that's totally necessary. And what's so interesting is that there are more projectors being born now because we really, really need projectors as this new way of leadership, of knowing how to guide the others, of how to use energy. And I want to say that because I see a lot of information about this online that I think is potentially disconcerting to projectors, and I work with more projectors than any other type. And it's that there are things called energy types. Manifestors, generators, and manifesting generators are technically energy types, and projectors and reflectors are non-energy types. And if you're a projector or a reflector, it doesn't mean you don't have energy. It just means you don't have consistent access to sacral energy. You can actually have even more energy as a projector. It's not as lasting, it's in bursts, and then you need to flush it out. And so if you're a projector and you're told that you don't have energy, it's not true. Many projectors have way more energy than the rest of us because you can amplify that. But anyways, projectors, you since you're this unique guide, since you have this aura that really like kind of it's not penetrative, but it sees into the other, and it sees into the other much better than it sees itself. Projectors like see everything so clearly, but they can't always see themselves and their gifts as clearly. But know that the way that you view and see and guide and like the gifts that you have for the world are so needed in moving us into the new age. And the projector's strategy is to wait for the invitation and recognition. And this is the one where it's like, if I can do anything, I probably told you this, Jordan, when we spoke first, to free the projectors of this feeling limiting, because it should not. And the reason that a projector's strategy is to wait for the invitation recognition is because you have all of these insights and all of these things that you can see and you want to share all the time. But oftentimes in childhood, projectors have, been called know-it-alls, or it's like you've been giving your advice to this person over and over again. Then all of a sudden this person says it and they listen to that person, and you're over here saying, I've been saying this the whole time. And then you can feel a sense of bitterness. And so to make sure that you receive all the invitations, recognition, the first thing is to recognize yourself first, right? Recognize that your view of the world and you just being is unique, and you have this like unique ability to see that is so much more profound than you know. And by recognizing yourself, that's how the other recognizes you. And that's where we might not get into authority today, but that's where you use authority with whether is this the correct thing to be invited to and say yes to. And I'll give an example about the wait for the invitation and recognition, because any type, when they're alone, the strategy has to do with when your energy right? Like if Jordan says to Sam, let's do a podcast today, and then Sam is like responding because that's a part of her strategy. If you're just alone, you can do whatever you want. You can start whatever you want. It doesn't matter what type you are. But let's say that, Sam, you're having, or actually, no, let's say that you, Jordan, want to go start a YouTube or do a YouTube video. Well, you don't have to wait for YouTube to ask you to do the YouTube video. Like, you can just do the YouTube video. But let's say another example that, Sam, you're having issues with a relationship in your life. And Jordan, you know that Sam is having issues with this relationship, and you really have amazing advice and you have things to say about it. But you know that if you just unsolicited advise her and tell her that whatever, she might not receive it very well. But let's say that Sam's like, oh, Jordan, I'm having so many problems with this relationship. Jordan, you can say, oh, I have some thoughts. Would you like to hear my thoughts? That's an invitation. Okay. So it's like there's little nudges, and the best thing for any projector is always to ask questions. If you have something to share, but you don't know if it's fully invited, like ask a question. Be like, I kind of was thinking about this. Would you like to hear my insights or my thoughts? You can always create an invitation. Every once in a while, they might say no, but most of the time they're going to say, yes, please let me know. And that's an invitation. So don't get caught up on the wait for the invitation. It should not feel restrictive. It should only show you a way to allow your energy to be even more in flow. And when you do that, when you like successfully align to it, you should feel so much satisfaction when you're out of bitterness, right? So deep sense of satisfaction. But as any projector, being recognized and seen for like the gifts and the way that you see others, and just the unique way and perspective you have on the world is so vital for you, and it's so needed. And so really, really honoring yourself and then seeing how the world honors that is crucial.
That's interesting as well, because I remember I've had conversations sometimes with people and been like, how come someone doesn't see the way I'm seeing this? Like, I see it completely differently. I'm like, I don't get it. I do not understand why people don't see it the way I'm seeing it right now. So that will be why, because I see the world differently, as we all do, but you know.
It's true, but you have a way of being able to guide then others into whether it's how to use their energy or what to do in the situation, or and then recognizing again and again that way that you see is really unique and really, really needed for right now.
Oh, well, that's sort of nice to hear as well, because obviously I'm a life coach too, so that makes sense as to why I do what I do. So that's very cool.
You're in the perfect role.
Yeah, it's such a good role for you, and such a powerful role.
So what are the other types then?
Yeah, so then we have the manifestors. So manifestors historically were all of the kings and queens and the ones who started the wars. And manifestors are really the visionaries. They're here to go after their vision and kind of initiate the things and start the things and then inform everyone about what they're doing. Manifestors are fiercely independent, and kind of here to like start the things and then have everyone else back up the movement. And what's so interesting about manifestors though is even though all the rest of society has kind of been conditioned by them that we just need to initiate things all the time and start the things. And again, we can all initiate and start when we're doing it by ourselves. This is kind of more in a group. Manifestors have been so conditioned by people pleasing because, it's not good to go out and whatever. And even as a young child, it's like manifestors aren't ones that are supposed to have a bedtime, aren't ones that are supposed to be told what to do, and yet they've been kind of taught to ask for permission and to people please. And so a lot of manifestors, when they're out of alignment, can feel a lot of anger. And the most important thing in living in flow as a manifestor is to really go after your urges and initiate, but then inform. Let people know what you're going to do. It's not about asking permission, but it's just saying, hey, I'm going out to start this. I just wanted to let you know. And because if manifestors don't inform, sometimes people can feel left in the dark or left out of their lives, or they can feel like, what is this person even doing? And manifestors need to not be restrained. But they also do, I think, a misconception with manifestors is that they're just these highly independent beings who are just doing their own thing. And it's really not. All of us want deep connection, companionship. And for manifestors, it's giving them freedom to really do that, and like honoring how visionary and how much of a trailblazer they are. And also telling them how much you value when they let you know what they're doing, even if it's not, and it's not about asking permission, right? And so manifestors we need empowered manifestors. We need you to know that as a manifestor, you have this aura that is kind of penetrating. It zeroes in on what it wants. It almost has laser vision when that urge comes of the go ahead, and gets all this momentum to really bring that thing to life. But because of that aura, in traditional human design, they call it repelling. I don't like saying that. It's about selective, in that it draws those in that are here to help create whatever it is that you're creating, and it will push those away that are not meant to be on the path. And it's really important to notice this, that not everyone's going to like what you're doing, or not everyone's going to like that you can just initiate like that. It can trigger some people, but to know the more and more you commit to living in alignment as you, the more and more all the right people will come in your midst.
Amazing. I just think that, this is just, everyone really should know their human design.
Yes.
Like, I mean, that's obvious, but it's true, because we will then just feel so much more, we'll know who we are more, and how we can, by finding all this out, we can find out how we work within our work life, in our relationships, in every aspect of our lives. And then it will just be like, okay, this is why everyone is different. That's,
it's such a deep way to have more compassion for other people, and understanding that, like, oh, you operate differently, but that's okay. I see you. And to nurture people based on that. It would, if the world, and I think more people are understanding it. And I know through your podcast, more and more people are finding this, and I think it's bringing a lot more togetherness for everyone.
Well, just having this conversation, I'm like, I'm going to book in another session. I'm so excited. I'm like, I need to have another session. So what was the next? So what's
Generators?
next?
Generators, yeah. So generators.
My partner was a generator.
Oh, really? Yeah. Generators are here to be these sparkly, magnetic beings that literally, like, the world would not operate without generators, which is why there are more generators than any other type, which yesterday I wrote, generators, you are unique. Even though you're the majority of the population, we would not be able to operate, because generators are like the batteries of the world. And, you have the capacity to quote unquote work, but really no one is supposed to be here working. You are here to play. You're here to tap into the things that most light you up. And then you get this massive energy and this engine that not only energizes you, but gives you more energy to create and do that thing, and also energizes everyone around you. When you are around a lit up generator, everything in your life is lit up. It's like you can't get enough. It's such a juicy magnetic energy. And generator strategy, which is the beginning of the manifesting generators one, is to respond. And that's because since you have this aura that's so magnetic, kind of like manifesting generators as well, you always have things to respond to. But here's the difference. As a generator, it is very, very important that you use your authority, which I don't think we'll get to, but authority is your independent decision-making style. Because generators, since they don't have like the switch with the manifesting part, when they commit, they're more likely to follow through, which is why generators can get bogged down or commit to things that are incorrect, or get stuck in the shoulds more than any other type. Because you have such capacity as a generator to do and to follow through. And so whenever you have those things to respond to, even if it's like the text message that you can wait a little bit longer to answer, or someone asked you if you want to go out to coffee, like, check in if that's correct for you, because the generator, unlike the MG, it's not about the envisioning, like the response then kicks their sacral energy into gear and gets them going, gets the momentum going to follow through. So as a generator, it's like the number one thing I say for all generators is look at all the shoulds in your life, and then look at where you're excited. Look at where your joy is. Look at where you're lit up, because that's what you're here to do. When you are in your joy, there is no lack of opportunity, success, fulfillment that the universe gives you. And so when you feel really, really aligned as a generator, you should feel a deep sense of satisfaction. But when you're out of alignment, frustration. And know that we need you, we need your momentum, we need you to be lit up, and we don't need you to be toiling away on the things that society says that you should do, but really aren't fulfilling to you. The more and more you can lean into the joy and the fun, the more and more the rest of the world thrives.
And that seems so right for him as well, because even just the smallest things day to day, he'll be like, oh, but I've said I'll do it, so I have to. And I'll be like, but you don't have to. You know, and he's like, oh, I do. Like, he is very much like, says he'll do something, sees it through, even if then, he spends the whole time seeing it through, frustrated and annoyed that he has to. He will see it through.
Exactly. So it's like, really, right, for manifesting generators, it's not as important, because it is still very important. It's important.
I'm like, no, it's fine. Move on.
Yeah, but you have this like a little bit more of a time before that initiating.
Yeah.
And our final type, reflectors. So reflectors are the smallest percentage. They're only 1 to 2% of the population. And if you pulled up your chart, you'll see all of those triangles and squares on the chart. Those are called the centers. And the centers are effectively like chakras. They regulate the flow of energy through your body, and they're either going to be colored in, which is defined, or they're going to be white, which are either undefined or open. And when you look at a reflectors chart, every single one of those centers is open or undefined. They're white. And what this means is that all of those places that are open in your, regardless of what your type is, those are areas where you can be really, really wise in the world, but you can also amplify the other and need boundaries. So reflectors are kind of the ultimate chameleons. They're here. They're these wise human mirrors who magnify the collective and magnify everyone and thing around them. If you're a reflector listening, you probably kind of related to every single type, because here's the thing, depending on who you're around or where we are astrologically, you probably do feel a little bit like every single one, just based on how your chart's being defined. And reflectors are really interesting because their health and their well-being reflects the larger collective. And so if a reflector is not doing well, it's really important to take a look at them and see, okay, it's not necessarily them, like what's happening in the environment that they're in. They're super, super impacted by their environments. And they view the world in a super novel way, because they really are these mirrors, right, to anyone around them. If you want to see who you are, put yourself in front of a reflector and see what's mirrored back. Yeah, it's a big thing. Or anything, people, if you have triggers by the reflector, it's like, okay, well, let's look at what is that in yourself.
Yeah.
And the strategy for a reflector is so interesting, to wait a full lunar cycle. And this isn't for like, what do I need to have for dinner? You don't have to wait 28 days. It's for the bigger decisions, because reflectors, all of the rest of the beings, manifestors, generators, manifesting generators, and projectors, are all known as solar beings, because we have some definition or colored in triangles and squares in our charts. But reflectors have none, and they're very lunar beings. And so the transits affect them even more.
Oh.
And let's say that, give an example, that the moon is in Sagittarius, and the moon moves signs every 2 to 3 days. And Sagittarius is all about higher thought, higher learning, expansion, travel. All of a sudden, the moon's in Sagittarius. The reflector's like, okay, I'm going to travel the world and move. I'm going to quit my job, quit everything. Well, as a reflector, that's not the time to make that big life decision. You want to wait for the whole moon cycle, because 2 days later, when the moon moves into Capricorn, which is really about work, career, how the public sees you, it's a lot of institutions and structured institutions. All of a sudden, the reflector goes to a meeting with all these bankers, and the reflector's like, I've found my life purpose. I'm going to be a banker. And it's like, well, okay, that's not the time to drop everything and be a banker. Wait the full moon cycle to make sure that still stays, because those right. And then it moves into Aquarius, and they're like humanitarian, a little bit all over the place. Then it moves into Pisces, and they're all into the depths, into the wisdom and secrets of the universe. And it's such an uplifting and fun journey when you allow yourself to be okay with not needing to know necessarily who you are or what your purpose is, but allowing yourself to be in the environments that make you feel the best and give you the freedom to shift. And when reflectors are in alignment, they should just feel a deep sense of surprise. Like the universe just surprises them all the time. When they're out of alignment, they can feel a sense of disappointment.
I feel like being a reflector, you should really, I know we all should know what we are, but I feel like being a reflector is super important if they're so affected like that, like so easily around by other people and by the moon. I think that is definitely important to know if you're a
Especially
reflector.
because it
For sure.
sounds like you could be left feeling more like, oh, what is my purpose? What
Yeah.
do I want in life? Like a lot of questions, and probably feel frustrated that you don't have all the answers. So it's probably quite good to know that's you.
Totally. And just knowing the conditioning and the influences that we have, because any type can either be in alignment or out of alignment. And there's so much more nuance. Like all of those centers have all these qualities in them too. So most people have at least one at center undefined or open. And for example, I have an open identity center. And so I, as well, am not really supposed to know who I am or my purpose. I really don't. My only gate on my identity center, which is in my Mercury, so this is where the planets, and it gets really in depth. A gate is kind of like a quality, a gene, a characteristic. And I have gate 13 in my identity center, which is the gate of the listener. And it's a gate that makes me kind of this safe, it's like a story keeper where people feel compelled and safe to share their secrets and stories with me. And my role is to hold the story of humanity to then share it in the correct timing. But other than that, my identity is open. And so I'm not here to know who I am and my environment, like whoever, and this is why I do the work I do. When someone sits in front of me, I can't see myself, but I know exactly who you are. I'm like, oh, this is so fun. And so even regardless of type, this is where the nuances come in that we all have areas. Maybe it's you have an open emotional center and you can really amplify people's emotions, but need boundaries around that. Like for me with my open identity, an open spleen, an open head, I need to be really the identity though. I need to be really aware about the environments I put myself in, because it's not a bad thing to not know your purpose, because I say anywhere you're open, like open identity, I get to choose who I want to be by who I surround myself with.
Yeah.
And it's never should be limiting, right? But I also have to be aware that, you know, since I can really relate and see myself in a lot of different people, it's important. Is this who I want to be though? I can, but is this what I want to do? And so that's a constant journey of tapping in, that are the people that you surround yourself with and the environments are those ones that are conducive to where you want to go.
Keeps life fun, hey?
Yeah, totally.
I was just looking at mine and I was like, I think I've got 4 undefined areas. So that is when they're white, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's quite a few.
I haven't got that screenshot in front of me. I've just like screenshotted like the different bits of it. So it's a single definition. Emotional inner authority, is that sort of thing, that circle, or is that something else?
Well, emotional authority tells me some of it. The single definition talks about what's colored in all the centers in your chart, if they all connect, and how they connect. And it's a deeper layer, but basically it shows me more about how you function or about where your conditioning is. Like, for example, Jordan has a very small split. So she has a ton of different areas that can bridge her split. Gate 54, gate 60, gate 6, gate 37. So those energies are the ones that are gate 28, gate 18, like all of these different energies can bridge her. All of those are the areas that her being, there's like even more connection with her being, and there's this even greater connection with other people. So for example, I'm sure you light up at least one of them. I light up 37 for you, 60 for you. You have 10 different areas, I think, that you can light up the split in your chart. And so those areas are always the ones to look at. Oh, maybe my being is looking for those characteristics and qualities more in the outside world. But in the centers, I'm talking about those squares and triangles. There are 9 of them. And so Jordan has 4 of them that are white. It's her sacral center, which makes you a projector, a quote unquote non-energy being. Your throat center, your ajna, your mind center, and your head center. And I think we probably spoke about how when you have your ajna in your head, like you can read other people's thoughts. You are a mind reader. You know what people are thinking.
Watch out, people.
True. But it's also, you're so open-minded and you have the ability to think in all sorts of ways. That the thing that you need to be careful of, and this is a childhood thing, I think even more, is not taking on other people's thoughts as your own, right? Because the mind is never the authority. And noticing when you're experiencing a lot of mental pressure, because you're not supposed to feel that, but you could feel it even more depending on who you're around, or like needing to figure out the answer to things. And really, you know, when you ride out your emotional authority, find emotional or neutrality, you'll just have those answers right away.
So interesting. I feel like we could just talk about this.
Yeah, there's loads, isn't
days.
there?
Yeah.
I bet everyone listening right now is like looking on what is the website called that you can find your chart?
Yeah, my favorite one is geneticmatrix.com.
Yeah.
And I think you can create a free account, but it's the one that has the most accurate UTC data. So it's really the only website that I recommend in making sure the accuracy of the chart.
So guys, you should definitely go check out who you are. And obviously definitely check out Katie's work, because honestly, I mean, you've heard a bit of it today, but I just think you're absolutely amazing. And I absolutely loved my session. Like I said, I'm going to book another one in.
And if you're new to it, as I said, I was really new to it. It is like your Instagram is really good at breaking down. Like, I feel like when I first looked at it and I was like, oh, it says I'm a manifesting generator, or it's like single definitions, and trying to then learn what that means was easier through looking at the examples that you give. I think that made it a lot more easier to understand what exactly it is that certain thing is talking about.
That makes me so happy. That's exactly what I try to do. I want my Instagram, one of them is Human Design Lady. And if you're totally new, scroll down all the way to the bottom, because I created the account so that you can kind of one by one go through your chart in just easy, digestible language that doesn't feel overwhelming.
Yeah, that's what I've done. I've scrolled all the way to the bottom and literally looked at each one.
I've done that. It's like looking at them. I'm like, ooh.
Yeah. And it's not so bad because you're meant to, so we won't get out for stalking you like months down and accidentally liking a picture.
Oh, please. No, I love it. I get likes from the very beginning most days. And it makes my heart, because that's exactly why I created the account. So the more of those, the more I feel like, okay, this work is helping people.
Amazing. And it's just enhancing people's lives. And I think that is such a great thing. And that's just amazing that you are doing this work, because it's so needed. And yeah, I just want to say thank you for doing this work, because, you know, sometimes doing these things can't always be easy, you know, but it's needed, and it's really helping the world and helping every person that connects with you. And now even you guys listening can go connect with Katie yourselves and enhance your own lives too.
I would love that. And thank you so much. I mean, likewise to the work that you're doing in the world. And it's so received and so needed. And I can't wait to connect with so many more of you and meet you and see your magical blueprints of who you came to be.
And we'll definitely have to have you on again, Kate, because I do feel like we could just literally talk for ages about so many different things.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. I know when I listen to stuff like this myself, like, hopefully, I'm sure for our listeners, that I feel like they'll definitely find it really interesting as well, because especially if they do go find out what type they are, because you understand it a bit more and you pick up on things and you're like, oh, that's good to know. Like, oh, that sounds like me. That sounds like me. So.
Well, so can you just let everyone know again where they can find you, just in case they missed that? And we'll put it in the show notes anyway, but just so they can find you.
Amazing. So you can find me at Katie Calder _ or at Human Design Lady on Instagram. And then my website is katiecalder.com, and you can book a session there. I have some different master classes and things coming out, and just really, really look forward to connecting with all of you. And thank you so much, Jordan and Sam, for having me today.
Oh no, thank you so much. It's been amazing.
Yeah. Thanks for having you. Thanks. I don't know, I'm just so like in my own head at the moment, like processing everything, that I'm just like but thank you. Yeah.
And thanks for everyone for listening today. If you have listened to this podcast, please share it on Instagram, and we'll share it as well, and speak to you next time. Thanks guys.
Bye.
Bye.